In the March 25th, 1987 episode of Nightlife, starring David Brenner, you got Bob Guccione Jr., founder of Spin Magazine, talking about that publication. And, yeah, we all know what his dad did for a living. Pornographer. Thank God. Penthouse. Got me through some, pre-shaving days. Ha ha, good pun, huh?
Welcome back to Nightlife. My first guest is a publisher and editor of Spin Magazine, which he has described as an overground, underground publication. He's currently celebrating his magazine's special second anniversary issue. Please welcome Bob Guccione Jr. Well, I gotta ask you something. You know, your dad publishes Penthouse magazine. Now, I'm really curious about this. When you were a little kid, did you like sneak under the covers with a flashlight and read Time magazine?
No, I used to sneak James Bond novels, and that was my whole world. And I used to wear to school the holster, the James Bond holster. And I had no idea really what Penthouse was for years. I knew it had naked women in it, but what naked women meant to the world, I didn't know. And it was when I was 13, I asked my priest how babies were born, my priest in school, and he slapped me. He thought I was making fun of the church, you know.
Maybe he
so
thought that's the way babies are born. You get slapped and a baby comes out.
Exactly. No, he thought I was making a mockery of the church, because what my father published was an erotic magazine, very
so he thought
outrageous for that day.
Oh.
Yeah. When he explained it to me, then Penthouse made sense. Then I found it erotic. Until then, no.
Now, how did you know that Spin, now it's 2 years, and it's now it has really established itself. How did you know this magazine is going to be a success? Because I know I travel a lot. I go into airports, man, I'm grabbing magazines because I got to read for 6 hours, and there are just literally hundreds of magazines.
Yeah, thousands.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you know that you're going to come out with an idea, a concept?
Well, I wish I could have said I knew. It would have been great to say that. Not only didn't I know, I launched it at the worst possible time in publishing history. The whole industry was on a decline. I didn't know that. That's how naive I was out of it. But when I launched the first issue, I suddenly realized that it was very real and that I was going on pure gut instinct. And I'd invested a lot of my father's money, all my own time, and a lot of people's work on it. But I had an instinct that the rock press was due for an injection of humor and irreverence, and a return to the sort of spirit that made rock and roll what it is. Rebellious, intelligent, sensitive, sense of humor, taking music seriously, but itself not too seriously. And that's always been the mandate of the magazine.
But how do you know what to put in it? How do you know?
We
make
don't.
those?
We don't always know, you know. I'm giving away secrets here. We sit around editorial meetings and we shoot a lot of ideas around. And usually the best idea is the one that come out of us being tired at the end of the meetings. And somebody says, well, why don't we do models and rock stars, you know?
Yeah, this idea here, sex is a weapon. What did she start? And you got Madonna on this anniversary. Yeah. Now, how do you come up with, all right, this is what we're going to go with, and this is going to sell the magazine?
Well, what happened was, we were discussing how women rock stars have now entered a sort of superstardom that was reserved solely for men in the 70s, and even in the 80s. Prince, Michael Jackson, Bruce Springsteen. There was no woman comparable. Yeah, New Jersey, right? You know. Or New Guinea.
Right.
Now you have Madonna, then you have Cyndi Lauper, and then you have Whitney Houston, and so on and so forth, the Bangles. And we said, is it purely a result of video? Or is it some other cultural evolution? We've got Tama Janowitz, who's a sensational writer, and who I'm glad to say wrote at our measly prices before she was famous, and has stayed faithful to the magazine now she's famous. She wrote a very good and enlightening essay on it. And then we interviewed several rock stars, Belinda Carlisle, Grace Jones. We quoted Madonna, you know. And we put together a very interesting piece. And it's a typical Spin piece. We don't really know where we're going when we start. We're not really sure where we got to when we finish. But it's an interesting read. I mean,
but you come up with some strange ideas. Like I noticed, like now the idea of the Sean Penn, whoever sends in the best Sean Penn photograph.
Yeah, we did this. We started a Sean Penn photo contest because we got so sick and tired of him bullying old men and photographers trying to do their job and hitting people from behind, you know. Someone asked me once if I was scared of Sean Penn. I said, not unless he comes up from behind me, I'm not, you know, because that's what he did a lot. And so we said, look, we've got to make some sort of editorial comment in the magazine, but it should be sharp and it should really put him in his place. So I invented the short and pen photo contest. The final joke may be on us, though, we only had one entry, only one person in it, so that's the winner. You know, we have to give him $100 worth of camera equipment.
Wouldn't it be funny if it's really Sean Penn?
Yeah, really, yeah.
You know, he did one of these numbers.
Yeah.
You know, well, when you know, there's interesting things like you have in here. I noticed you're reading the article here, and you have, and this I didn't. Japanese comics. You go to range here. You have the whole range of everything. Yeah, right. You have all Bad Brains, Quentin Crisp, and then you have Japanese comics and Sonny Bono. It's like a It's like a weird. Well, I turned to Japanese comics, and I thought I didn't know there were stand-up comics in Japan. Like, wow, TV dinner, haha, you know. So I turned to it, and I start, and it has nothing to do with comedians.
No.
It's the comic books.
Absolutely. They have a different comic book for every possible walk of life. Plumbers have their own comic books in Japan. Not that they shouldn't have
like
in America,
Captain
but they
Plumber? I mean,
probably. Yeah, I don't know what it is in Japanese, but it was exciting. And they have these things, and that somebody observed that they use more paper for comics in Japan than toilet paper. So there seems to be some sort of cultural uplifting. You know, we're improving.
But you had to find out what they do with the comics after they read it before you conclude on it.
Yeah, if it was soft paper, they could do both. You know.
You know, I hate to be booed, man. Right? I don't know why I say these things. I hate it. I hate it. Now tell us what's new in the what do you see as because you're like, you know, in your business you can sort of see things that are going to happen. You see trends. What do you see happening in music? Are there any trends that you see coming along the horizon in music?
Yeah, you constantly see trends. They sort of change so quickly. One of the encouraging trends, I think, is the emergence of new music, independent music. It used to be that independent music, which is usually the best music of all, the most risky, the most innovative, never got airplay. But now, as stations get locked into that top 40 format, so does a swing back towards more innovative music, which is very good. And the independent labels are acting as a sort of AAA farm team for the majors, so they're getting encouragement. And I think if something like the home taping bill comes through, and I really hope it doesn't, but if it does, what it will do is it'll force radio stations to play more kinds of music so that the listener can have a greater range to hear before he buys. I think that's a good trend. I think that, you know, you're seeing more black music happen, which is really good on radio too.
Yeah.
Really good. So that's the beginning of rock and roll, you know. I'm really excited about that.
What about the whole thing of black musicians who can't get on their videos on television?
Well,
that's been that was like a hot issue for a while, and then they seem to have squelched it. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Black musicians cannot get their videos on.
I think that's tragic because some of the best videos are.
Well, rock and roll comes from their music.
Absolutely.
Now
right,
they can't get it. You know.
Yeah, what I'd love to see too, they do the classic videos on MTV. It's invariably The Who or Cream, you know, whomever. That's very good. But I'd love to see the classic old soul guys like Wilson Pickett and Otis Redding. You know, concert footage. That'd be fantastic. Right. Great stuff.
Yeah. It's now when you do a lot of hard news stories too. I mean, you're not just a music and kind of rock magazine. You got into some heavy stuff in this magazine over the 2-year period.
Yeah, when we started the magazine, the idea was for it to be, as I said, a very intelligent magazine. We didn't want to presume our readers were stupid because they liked rock and roll and not dare presume they could think. So we've challenged them in the past, and we've done non-music stuff throughout. But last year, 1986, Spin did something no other magazine did, which it broke 3 major news stories. We were the first people ever to write about crack. We discovered crack in print. We broke the story about the Live Aid abuse of Live Aid funds in Ethiopia, a story for which we took terrific heat. A lot of criticism from the music industry and from the press, until the mainstream press found out that we were 100% correct. And then the Atlanta child murders, we actually broke that story. You know, here's a magazine, it's 150,000 circulation when we're pushing, you know, we're right at the top. And this little magazine's got the loudest voice in America, thank God. And so we broke this story ahead of everybody. No one could believe we had this, and we did a second follow-up story, which even brought up more evidence. And at the bottom of our story was that the Ku Klux Klan probably had more to do with the murders than Wayne Williams, and that the evidence against Wayne Williams was terribly insubstantial. Mm-hmm. So the magazine has done, some very major newsworthy stuff.
And for you personally, it's got to be great.
Oh, it's great.
Right? This is your kind of life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great. All right, we'll be back with Nightlife right after this. Welcome back to Nightlife. You know, anytime you start anything new, a new magazine, anything, you get a lot of criticisms of anything. We had it on the show and all that. What was the worst thing said about Spin magazine?
Well, I see. I mean, it was tough getting over the fact not everybody loved the magazine. But the worst ever attack was from Elvis Costello, who absolutely assailed the magazine and me personally in the English press. Ranted and raved about it. And at the end of that, he said, "And what do you expect from the son of a pornographer?" So some interviewer asked me about that from England, and I said, well, it's very strange. I said, he's one of my best advertisers. He'd advertised about 8 times in the first 2 years of Spin, he's advertised 8 times. So I wish all my advertisers hated me that much, you know.
Oh, wow. What do you read? Like, can you read a magazine and not look at it?
Not criticize it? No, I absolutely can't. I criticize the paper quality, or I hate where they do a better story than us. I go, damn, we should have had that story. I hate that.
So your reading life is like over.
Yeah, I read like Polish magazines for fun because I can't understand it.
Well, I wish you a lot of luck. Come back on the next anniversary.
Thank you very much, man.
Good night, everyone.
It's a pleasure.